recording. Justin, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Al isn't with us right now. He may be joining us a little bit later, but we figured we could just move forward.
Okay.
I would like to move that we begin with new business and then circle back to the public hearing after we reviewed the application, just as there are no members of the public on the call. That way the applicant doesn't have to wait for that discussion, and hopefully Al will be able to join for that portion of the meeting.
Sounds good.
So let's move forward with new business, 3-5 Parsonage Street. And Justin of Highland Architecture is representing the applicant. You should be able to share your screen. Justin, let me know if you have a problem.
Okay. So Dee Dee and Victor are here, the homeowners. And as you mentioned, it's 3-5 Parsonage Street. I will share some images that I have open. I'm also going to just raise some things, just show you some pictures too. This is the house.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it already, it does have aluminum siding and some shutters on the windows. The majority of the windows are double hungs. They are vinyl replacement, white vinyl replacement kits, which are intended to be replaced over time. But I'll start from the beginning. Basically, the owners are going to convert what is currently a 2-family home into a 1-family home. So there's that to start with. Now, when you look at, I'll start bringing up some drawings here. The front elevation to start. Our intention with this is to, can you all see that?
No.
You can't? Okay, hang on. Let me just go to share screen here. I'll just share that. All right, so there's the image of the house. There's a photograph of the house. You can all see that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then as far as the drawings go, this is the front elevation we are proposing. If you look in your packets, I organized all the drawings in order. So in the beginning of the packets, there are X drawings, which are the existing conditions. The existing elevations are on X3. The existing photographs are on X4. So you can sort of get an overall view of what's existing. And then I think the main focus will probably be tonight on the front elevation and the other elevations as well, but the front probably being the most critical, which is on A3, as you can see.
Okay. The rest of the board has digital copies of the presentation. I'm the only one of the hard copies. So if you could just show us those existing conditions as well.
Yeah.
Just so that people aren't shrinking down the Zoom to look at their digital copies.
All right. So existing elevations, can you see those?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you can see the sides and the rear and the front. If you focus on the front elevation, 2x3, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's one little dormer all by itself in that lower roof. Currently, that roof and that dormer are where there is a bedroom. It has very low ceilings in that bedroom, and it is in the second floor apartment. So converting this house into a single family, that space is eventually going to become a master bedroom suite. And we're intending on removing that lower roof and dormer, raising it up, keeping the same pitches, and adding a couple of dormers, which you'll notice in the proposed design. I'll also say this. When you look at these elevations, and take a look at the photographs too, which are on X4, which I'll show you. The dormers, the little cute dormer on the front, it's nice, it's architectural, it's actually quite nice to look at. But that roof and the dormers on the rear, it is a hodgepodge. It's a mess right now. I have to say it's quite the mess. So our intention with this is to remove that entire roof and its dormers, raise it up, and we're proposing shed dormers. Now, I will explain the shed dormer, and I will show you that it's not a shed dormer like you see in the design guidelines, which is a no-no. So I have this image here, which you can all see, which I said, no, we are not doing this. To be clear, we are going to be doing something a little bit more like these dormers. If you can see these dormers, how they're shed dormers, and they break the roof plane and the roof edge, and they are going to be elegantly designed and detailed, not bulky in any way. And I have another image just of this board here of on the back, what we're intending on doing with the back. So the shed dormer in the back will be terminating into the side wall of the main house, the taller part of the house. So it will look something like these here. So again, that space becoming a master bedroom, we need headroom to move around in there. We need light and air. We need egress. And also, we probably came up with about 5 different scenarios for the roof and its dormers. And we settled on the sheds because it was the most simple, elegant. The composition looked great. It brought light and air in. And that's the one that we thought was best for what we were doing. We had others that were very complicated. They definitely had some merit, but we did settle on the shed dormer on both sides, which I will show you. Now, that's the rear elevation. You can see the shed dormer in the back and how it would terminate into the side wall. And there are a couple of little windows that are up high on the south elevation, which you can't see in this elevation because I've removed all the demo. We're ripping this roof off and we're pushing it up. So we're raising its elevation. We're matching the pitch. We're putting in these shed dormers. That's what we're proposing. Siding and trim and windows we can discuss as well, and I'll answer any questions about what we're intending on doing for the porch repairs. There is a proposed balcony at the rear, which you can see on this A4 drawing, which we'll be adding a door. There was a door there years and years ago that's been infilled. We're opening it back up. We're not really sure what that door went to, possibly a stair that went down. That's our assumption. But we are opening that door up and creating this balcony on the back. And details of the balcony will be very similar to the front porch. The front porch needs a bit of work, primarily improvements. It has built-in gutters. A lot of things on the house have been clad in aluminum. So our intention is to kind of extract some of the aluminum, see what's going on behind it, restore what we can, preserve what we can. That's the overall game plan. And then as far as roofing, siding, trim, gutters, leaders, I can explain that and answer any questions you might have. Just let me scan through some of these drawings. I want to make sure that you're seeing everything. Again, the existing elevations are here. There's existing floor plans, which I don't know you'd be too concerned about, but you can always flip through your hard copies that you have. That's the rear elevation you're seeing now. You can see a scale figure there. Just a quick explanation about the drawings. I realize that they can look a little complicated at times because you see a lot of dashed lines. Well, the dashed lines are primarily things to be removed. For example, I'll just go back to the front elevation. When you look at the front elevation now, there are two front doors. The one on the right, we're intending on restoring that door. It has been encapsulated with Texture 111 on the outside. So there are side lights and a transom there, which we want to bring back to life, restore the door. And then the door to the left, that will become a window. And the window next to it will be infilled and siding would go over that. We'll have to salvage some siding. We're hoping we can get a little bit of salvage of siding when we're demoing the existing upstairs roof construction and its siding to salvage a bit of that and reuse it where we can to sort of patch it in, because the aluminum siding isn't going to go away right away. The ultimate plan over time will be to replace the siding and the trim and the windows again over time, but it's not going to happen all in one shot. There are notes all over this front elevation which tell the pretty complete story about what we're thinking of doing. The front porch, for example, we are planning on adding a gutter. It has built-in gutters that really don't function too well, and it's a bit problematic. There's been some water damage, and our game plan is to kind of wrap that with a K-style OG type gutter. Most likely it'll be white aluminum, which would ultimately match the trim when all said and done. The front porch columns are turned wood, they're painted. The brackets are too. If over time the porch flooring is going to be replaced, or it will we discussed replacing it with tongue and groove Douglas fir. If the ceiling is ultimately getting replaced, it would be replaced with either Douglas fir beadboard or some form of composite. I have some samples here which I can show you as well. So I believe that's all I have for now. So I'll open it up to any questions.
Well, I just start off with a comment that the shed style roof line, the new roof line that you're proposing, I mean, I know of an example right here in High Street where there was an addition put on the back of a Victorian. And that's exactly what they did with the, it was a significant amount of massing added to the back of the house, the rear of the house. And that's exactly what they did. They just kind of alternated the, there was, the shed was broken up is how best I would describe it. It looked exactly like what you had. So and I think that was approved in, God, at least 10 years ago. So I'm not bothered by that. I was not on this board at that time, but I have seen a pretty recent example here in the village.
Yeah.
And it was done successfully, in my opinion. So
that's good. We believe this one will be very successful as well. The way we're going to detail it, it will not be heavy. It will match all the trim and siding. It'll be broken up well. We've got nice pieces of trim in between the windows. It's not taking up a large expanse. We looked at the scale, proportion, character of it. We thought it fit very nicely with the front elevation and seeing it from the sides as well.
I agree. I think that I think as you have it drawn, and particularly it being, a wall dormer in line with the front of the building and not
Yeah.
added onto the roof,
Right.
it reduces that mass.
Kind of like this.
Right.
That's exactly what my neighbor's house looks like. Yep.
Yeah. Also, by having, in this instance, because it is, even though you're raising the roof on this portion, it still is a little bit of a secondary roof line next to the more prominent roof line.
Yes.
Incorporating the shed slope is just going to make it recede a little bit while giving you that interior space that you're looking for. Even in this drawing that you have up now, showing the height increase of the ridge beam on that section, I mean, you can see that it's a pretty significant increase, but because the right side of the building is the height is so exaggerated, you have a lot of room
Yes.
before it starts to really disrupt this. I mean, in many ways, it looks a lot more appropriate in this proportion than
Yeah.
it did previously. So I don't have any concern about that. And on the rear, even though this is kind of appears to be sort of on a corner, I think it's set back far enough from Maple Terrace, and also because it's the downhill side of the building where the rear dormer is being added. I don't really think it would be very visible from the right way. And the incorporation of the balcony as well gives a little more, if you look at the photo of the rear, it does give it a little bit more of a better pattern on the rear. So I don't have any issues with any of the proposals on that portion of the building.
Okay.
That picture of the existing roof line is like so confusing that I feel like you're really clearing it up in a lot of ways. So
It really is. I mean, if you can see that 3A4, when you're up there, that ridge line comes basically into one of the little windows.
Yeah.
And then it's just a real.
It has to be a huge water mitigation problem too. That looks so messy.
It's very messy.
Yeah, and then on the rear, it says rear view from the west. Are those? It looks like there's because of course I'm not sitting here with a paper copy. I'm staring at my laptop screen.
Okay.
It looks like there's 2 different size dormers on
That's
that.
correct. That's correct. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 3 dormers in one room, and they're all different. So we're very excited about this because we're going to be taking that off and really making it much more organized, creating some order out of chaos.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do we have information, or do you have information concerning about the dates of construction for these or this building?
As to when it was originally built?
Yeah. And when the addition was added?
I do not know that. I'm not sure whether Dee Dee and Victor have any documentation on that. But not to my knowledge, I don't know.
The only thing we've been able to trace is in the real estate listing, it said the house was built in 1911, which is not correct looking at it, but what I was able to trace through the Historical Society was that's when the covered porch was put on, is 1911, but other documentation we haven't been able to find. The Putnam Historical Society didn't have any pictures of it. I mean, it's obvious when you're looking at it that it's 2 different houses, that the one on the right side is the original and obviously the left is the addition. the right side has a stone foundation and the left has a brick foundation.
Right.
I bet that the left side and the porch were done in 1911. My guess, because
Yeah.
it looks like they extended the porch to kind of bring the two masses together and to even
Right.
things out and to engage that new front door that's gone away.
The only place where you're gonna find, if this is something you're interested in and really want to know, the only place you're really going to find accurate information is if you go to the Putnam County Courthouse. You can actually, and I did it I was already there for another project for this board. And it's actually, they'll guide you through, they're very nice people there. They can guide you through digging through, the titles and tax documents and find your answer. It is pretty interesting. I actually I did it on my own house on a whim, and because I wasn't sure of the date of my own house, and it was actually pretty accurate. But you can pretty quickly work through those books. It's like this kind of chain of information that you follow, and it'll tell you a lot about, your house, and it's interesting. So.
Has anybody checked Chris to see if there's any information on this house?
I didn't check it.
Looking at it now.
Local district, not in the national district, so it wouldn't have been included in that survey, the 1975 survey.
Yeah.
But I haven't checked specifically for this. But most of the stuff that's on Chris, that was added, not the stuff that has been added more recently, but the that survey from Columbia is just for the national district.
I just want to chime in quick. I think everything looks great. My only suggestion would be on the rear facade in that dormer, the way the window openings are organized. I'm assuming you have 4 double hung windows there, but they kind of read as 2 very horizontally oriented double hung windows, which doesn't really mesh well with the rest of the house. If I'm correct in thinking you have 4 separate windows there, I think it would look a little nicer to trim them out so they're very clearly separate.
Okay, we can do that. Yep.
Also, what is poly ash trim?
That's the composite, isn't it?
That is this material here.
Oh.
It's a composite material, which is made from polyash and polymers. It cuts like poplar. You can bury it. It can get wet. It doesn't burn. It paints really well. So that's what we were intending on doing when eventually the siding and trim get removed and replaced. So yeah, it's Boral makes this product. It's called True Exterior.
All right, because
We've had a lot of success with this product.
I guess the board needs to have a discussion because it's a question. It's a plastic material, and so the question becomes whether or not that works for us. The other question I have is that
it's not plastic. It's cementitious.
okay.
Ash.
Yeah, it's ash. It's made from fly ash.
Al, that was the material that was originally approved for the addition at 20 the Boulevard. Do you remember we saw samples of it with that Steve Tilley had brought in? We approved it, but they ultimately didn't use it because they couldn't get a profile that they liked.
What we're intending on using it for is fascias, outside trim, and the built-up frieze we're planning on doing between new and existing on the addition.
All right, I guess, the question I have is that, we need to at least come up with a consistent policy because our design guidelines currently, and they haven't been changed yet, are argue against artificial materials. And, I think that we as a board need to make a decision if we are going to allow that to happen. I think one of the pros in this particular situation is the fact that the building is set back from the sidewalk, so certainly there is an issue as far as viewing distance. But my other question is that I'm looking both at the proposed west elevation and also the south elevation. And I see that the fascia trim, or actually I guess the trim underneath the eave continues under the eave on the west side, but then it continues through on the west side, on the, is it the west elevation? Yeah, south elevation.
Yeah, it's
Through the-
it's wrapping around west, south, and north.
Right.
I'm sorry, east.
Which I find troubling because I can understand the purpose of it under the eave, but then for it to go across and essentially across the south elevation, which is the end.
Yeah,
To me, that's a little bit troubling. Because
Oh.
that doesn't happen anywhere else in the building.
okay. I mean, we can wrap the corner and stop it, run it across the back and the front, wrap it around the corner and then terminate it, miter it.
All right, well, let me ask the other board members, anybody have any suggestions or thoughts on that?
Well, Al, I believe that the reason why that's being proposed is because the upper portion, the gable end on the on this south elevation is going to be clad in new siding, and everything below that line is going to be the existing aluminum siding.
That's one of the reasons. That's correct.
Being.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons.
Is there any possibility that you could reclad this whole side, not the whole building, just this south side, and avoid that extra trim?
Well, the first thing is that I really don't have a problem with the trim, but if we were to do that, I guess we could reside that whole side and not have the trim.
Do you know what the condition
No
of
idea.
the trim below the siding is like? I mean, the condition of the siding below the siding. Is there siding under the siding?
The owners can attest to that. They did some repairs on the back and they found that there is wood underneath and it's in really rough shape.
Okay.
All right, I guess, the reason I'm asking the question is that typically you've got a number of lines on the elevation. And, typically that would indicate that the trim is projecting. You have various layers in which
Yes,
trim
it's a
would.
freeze.
Right. So I guess the question becomes, how do you handle, because the bottom of it is further back and the top of it is further forward. So how would you handle the difference in elevation between the new siding and the old? I mean, it all occurs as a result of the trim, but I mean, it seems to me that it looks kind of awkward, the fact that you do have upper siding, further forward than the lower siding.
The upper siding would be in a similar plane to the lower siding. This frieze that we're talking about right
Yeah.
here, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving there,
Yeah, I see it.
but this frieze right here, the idea is that it's just a couple of layers of this material, very simply trimmed out. At the top edge, we would flash it and it creates a clean break between the the existing siding below and the new siding up above. Not only new and old, but just clearly sort of defining what was existing main body of the house and what's new. We thought it was a clever detail to create that nice clean break.
And if
And
they
then
do, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
If they do eventually want to, sometimes these projects are expensive and sometimes it's just practical to hold off on replacing, say all the siding on the house, which,
Yes.
maybe they're eager to do it, but you're not ready to take on a huge project like that at this time, but you can
Right.
do what you can do to make the place, livable and in the interior. And so you're making these changes. And then maybe someday when they're ready to rip off all the siding and replace it, you want the side. I don't personally, if it were me, if it were my house, I wouldn't replace all the siding on one side, even though it's a small elevation, because eventually you're going to want to match everything and, kind of do it right the first time if you do tear off all the aluminum eventually. And then it may not perfectly match, the first iteration of the house project in its current form. So to have that freeze there, at least it'll kind of naturally break things up if they do decide to go replace all the siding, in a number of years. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree with that
Can you-
opinion and
Can
that
you show me
approach.
can we see again the east and west?
Yeah, so this is the west rear side. And this is the front.
All right, let me ask you about the rear elevation. I guess that's the west side. Does the frieze continue all the way on the left side? Because that's new siding also above the dashed line, which is the demolition.
On the
And-
left, on the left side of the house, no.
No, left side of
Right.
the dormers, left side of the dormers. Dormers,
Yes, it
No,
does.
left, left.
The bottom piece of it would run underneath the windows and terminate into this wall.
okay, well, but that's not what you're showing because,
Yeah, well, this dormer, I'm sorry. That is not correct. That frieze runs around and terminates into the side. It should terminate just underneath this soffit. And then the rest of this is just window trim.
That makes sense.
And
But wait a
not,
minute,
not for
does it-
nothing, but you're really not going to even be able to see this rear elevation from the street.
well, agreed, but I guess it raises a different question. If you're demolishing up to where you're showing the dashed line, that's where the existing siding terminates. Am I correct?
Yes, we would run trim in this area, and the trim in this area would create the break between the sidings.
All right, but wouldn't that be continuous all the way around?
I think he
That-
said he was gonna salvage some old material.
That was,
maybe.
the idea was to run trim around here and around the side and around the front.
All at the same elevation?
Yes,
All right, so then the trim, the
it slightly
polyash,
has to, its profile has to change slightly where it hits the window.
all right, but I thought you said it comes down to where the dashed line is. Under the window, under the dormer windows.
Let me see if I can explain this a little better.
The dashed line.
So
right
this
a little bit
trim,
lower.
this is trim here,
Okay, I
This
see
is
the
trim
bottom
here.
band.
this bottom band.
Yeah.
So this is one piece. So then when you come around that's the front, sorry. So this bottom band is right here. It's running along. Then you've got the sill of the windows and it continues to run along because it's in the same plane and it runs over and terminates into this little jog.
Okay, all right.
think I'll take a walk tomorrow and see how much of this is actually visible from the public right away and maybe take some snapshots. Because I walk around that neighborhood a lot and I don't see how this is even visible
Mm-mm.
the way, yeah, I don't think any of
it
that.
is.
No.
I took a walk around the block and it was, I couldn't see anything from the streets, from the
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
Not in the back. You can definitely see both sides very clearly in the front.
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
But I'm thinking what we're looking at right here. I don't even know if that's visible. I'll check. I'll
Yeah.
go out on foot and check.
But we would break up these windows, with trim, excuse me, anyway. Because I just think that suggestion is a good suggestion. It's just
Yeah.
gonna make everything look better.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think they look a little, I agree, they look a little bit too monolithic and modern.
Yes.
That way, and if you had 4 divisions, I know it's gonna affect the view a little bit, but I think it'll look better.
Agreed. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, Justin and I spoke actually over the phone about this yesterday, but as of now, the application specifies material for the new windows, but not not a particular, a specific product, because they're still doing some budgeting and things like that.
Mhm.
So they are requesting that we approve an aluminum clad wood window, but they don't have a spec sheet to submit at the moment. They have a couple that they're looking at.
This is one example. This is a weather shield window. It's wood construction. Here's a section of it. It's wood construction with aluminum cladding and insulated glazing, and then simulated divided lights with spacer bars. That's what we're thinking for the new windows. And ultimately, as the windows get replaced
Mhm.
using the same window. Now, that could be LePage, Marvin, Pella, any of those companies that make aluminum clad wood windows. Many times we'll specify Marvin, for example, but we go out and get pricing and we find we can get LePage windows, which are basically the same for half the price.
Mhm.
So, and we think they look great, and we've
Yeah.
presented them before.
Is this a workshop today, or are we voting on this one today? Sean?
I mean, it's submitted as an application, so if it's sufficient to vote on today, we could, or if we want more information, we can take it up again in 2 weeks.
The proposed window, the simulated divided light, is a surface mounted mutton, correct? It's not sandwiched between the panes of glass.
That's correct. It's glued on both sides, basically, and then there's a spacer bar in between the glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, simulated divided light.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, and so what you're talking about is putting a K gutter as far as the porch. Is that the only place you're changing the gutter? Or I see, just looking at the side elevation, you're also going to be installed on the raised portion of the house, right? Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And what about on the dormers?
The dormers, we would have to do something as well. We would use the same gutter.
Okay.
And they would be sized to handle the amount of water coming off of them. So if it's on a dormer, for example, it might be a smaller profile than another part of the roof. But we usually keep them the same for consistency.
That would be nice, I think.
Um,
I don't care on the back here, but I think in the front, that would be nice.
Okay, now a question concerning the shutters, because I see you're providing new shutters on some existing windows and keeping the shutters that are there. Can you describe what the shutters are made of?
Yeah, right now, there's some form of, I think they're a plastic. They're only on, I think, 4 of the windows on the front. Yeah. 3 on the upper portion of the front. And this window over here. So the initial plan is to, they're black. They're just screwed into the wall. They're not operable.
Right.
They're just, so we thought, well, we're putting a new window here and these 2 windows here don't have them. So let's add them for now. But the rest of the house, there's no shutters. It's just aluminum sided and the
Okay.
corners are aluminum. And everything's aluminum.
All right. I guess the question that I just want, what are the new the shutters that are going to be installed? What are they going to be made of? Are they going to match the existing?
Yes. Yes, we would look at the composition of those, what they're made of, and we would match what's there. We may even, I'm not sure, they seem to be in pretty good shape, but we would find similar shutters to those.
Both,
Ultimately,
both that and your porch trim don't really say to match existing. They just say replace. So I look at it and wonder what you're replacing with. I get that you're trying to replace in kind, but it's just not specific on the drawing.
well, yeah, I mean, we would, of course, they would be.
I know it's implied. It's just, I'm just looking for it to be really.
Yeah, the
it's
same.
only implied.
The same design, color, style would be on the ones that we would be adding.
Yeah, so I just want it to say to match existing, you know, would cover that. I've just been in situations before where it's not specific enough. And it gets replaced. Yeah.
Since we're on the subject of shutters though, ultimately it's my opinion, and I'd like your input on this. When the siding gets removed and the trim gets removed and the shutters get removed and we're replacing these windows, it's my hope that we're using new trim, new siding, and not having any shutters on the house. Because currently, I mean, we've got this house just sort of clad in aluminum. There's no real trim detail, and the shutters are just for show. So it's my opinion that when it all gets done with siding and trim, there's no shutters.
Yeah, we generally don't encourage people to add shutters where there's no documentation that shutters previously existed.
Yeah.
And
Usually look.
the national district, which this is in the local district, but as our current design guidelines are written, shutters in the national district need to be operable. Although that we have occasionally made exceptions for new construction. So
Right, totally makes sense.
ultimately, the goal is to, in the final iteration of this project, however long that takes, to have no shutters at all. That is not, I do not see the board objecting to the shutters being removed entirely. And between now and then, if it's a unnecessary expense for the homeowners, there isn't really much of a reason to incorporate the shutters onto the porch line either. It may seem inconsistent if there's shutters above, but typically, you know, to have shutters under a porch roof is not very common.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Okay.
So if the shutters were going to be incorporated to appease the board, that's an unnecessary addition in my opinion.
Right. It can be, it can be undone.
Yeah. But if the homeowners are, you know, for the next however long it takes, do want to have the shutters to match the ones above, it is a reversible, it's a reversible element considering the siding will eventually be removed.
Okay.
I did actually just want to talk a little bit though about the front elevation, which we're seeing now on the screen. Is there a specific reason why that second door is going to be removed and replaced with a window?
Yes. The reasoning for that is, first of all, right now, there's so many doors in one area in the house. They're all swinging into each other,
Okay,
creating a little bit of a corridor there. And the other thing, it just sort of organizes the elevation, its composition. When you look at the new dormer proposed and the alignment of that dormer with the windows below, we thought it was a great balance to have 2 windows down here aligned with these 3. So it creates a nice composition. And right now, just this is going to be the door. You know, this is going to be the entrance door, and there's no question or confusion as to where to go.
Yeah.
You know, when approaching the house.
Yeah, it's not a 2-family house anymore. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
well, I agree that it's no longer a 2-family house, but there is something in the design of this porch that it was added to accommodate the 2-family house. And so if you look at it in plan, you know,
Yeah.
where the 2 doors are, the porch, the roof recedes back and creates these 2 entryways. I think the story is still being told if that door becomes a window, but you know, the design of the porch was sort of, I'm assuming, was created to accommodate those 2 entries. It's not something that I feel particularly strongly about, but it is going to give you this situation where you have, you know, a step up leading to a window and not to a door.
Well, what if what if it's not a door? Could they find a window that's just longer? So it gives the illusion of a door. It still tells the story of this house.
Sure, yeah.
I would actually suggest adding a railing here.
Yeah, that would fix it.
Just cutting that off completely, so there's no walkway going to it. You
Yep.
know, so that's just this roof is covering the porch, and this is the only way up onto the porch.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would do it.
yeah, that's definitely the simplest. I mean, you know, it's an older home. They evolve, they change, and sometimes you see these weird little quirks, but I think you're right. I think you wrap the railing around, it's okay. It's no longer a landing for a door. It's, you know, a continuation of the porch.
Yeah, I think that would be a better solution.
Is there a step up to it, or is it just a step up from grade?
No, there's a step up. I'm looking at the photograph.
Yeah, there is a step.
Can you remove the step?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, take the step away, now it's a porch.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a plan B? Because I'm just looking, I see that we're removing the window that's next to it. You're filling in the area under the or the bottom part of the door. You know, are you going to have enough salvage siding to do all of that? Is there another option? Are you?
We don't have a plan B for that. No, we don't. It's going to be a matter of trying to salvage enough siding to, you know, patch in those areas. Or, you know, that might trigger changing all the siding.
Mm,
I'm not sure, we're not at that point, but, you know, we're hoping to be able to gather some siding and probably off the back of the house, where we'll be able to get most of it. But again, that patching or sort of toothing in of siding is only supposed to be temporary.
Okay. All right. I guess my first question to the other board members, do we want to vote on the application tonight, or do we want to have the applicant give us some more information? I can tell you right now that I think that I'd like to at least clarify the business about the shutters. Just because it's very, it's something that's marked on the front. And I guess submit just a small catalog cut to identify what poly ash is. And I'm trying to think, I think that aluminum clad windows is not something which, especially need a catalog cut on, because I think everybody's familiar with what that is.
Mhm.
How about I see it's provide restoration of the existing front entry door, side lights and transom. I guess it would be nice if we could get a better idea of what that all entails and what materials you're planning on using there.
If you look, Al, on sheet X4, there's an interior shot of the door.
X4.
Yeah, it's the existing condition photographs of the building. In the bottom corner, you can see the door photographed from the inside with the side lights covered.
Yeah, it's all there, Al.
Okay.
The idea is that, they sort of painted over the glass and they put texture 111 over the front.
Wow.
Basically, we'd want to, strip all that paint off or replace the glass, strip the door, maybe change the hardware, but get it back into functioning. But restoration is just basically getting it back to what it was.
Okay, all right, well, okay, so then that should have been, how it was described. Okay, so I guess just the poly ash catalog cut is the only thing that I'd need. And so,
There it is.
I think we can vote on it tonight if that's what everybody on the board feels that way. So Sean, yes, no?
Yeah, I feel comfortable voting on it. I would say that the only kind of question mark as the project evolves is whether those side lights or any of that glass is going to be replaced with double pane. I mean, if it's unsalvageable in its current state, that we just have a catch up about how it could possibly be changed. But other than that,
You're talking about the front door.
the front door, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that the drawings are comprehensive and the design is in keeping with the character of the house. And I think that I know that this goes into planning, but I do appreciate the fact that even though the current owners are planning to stay there, hopefully for a very long time, the design doesn't prevent a future owner in the future from converting it back into a two-family house. So it is,
Mhm.
nothing is, the history of the house as a two-family house could in the future be restored on the interior. So I will vote to approve the application.
We're not
we
getting
don't
there
have
yet.
that. I'm just trying to find out if we want to take a vote on it tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for my
No,
vote.
no.
Then yes, I'm comfortable voting on it.
Okay, Lloyd,
I'm comfortable voting on it. I just wanted more specificity, like I said, about the trim and the shutters. I don't need the shutters though. I don't love shutters generally, especially when they're these fake ones. Let's see. We're kind of bothered a little bit by leaving the windows open-ended. I trust that this team will do a good job, but I don't want to end up with some clunky substitution of a window that doesn't work with the rest. So I don't know if there's a way to deal with that, if we can come back to that,
Could we separate it out from the application?
maybe. That's one way to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
once we have a full window schedule and we have all our, window quotes coming back, we can show you what they are going to be, submit them to the building inspector or you to approve. So I'm sure you'll be satisfied with what we eventually put in.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will
A way
be
to do
too,
that
but
without having to have another whole meeting that they would have to attend? Or no?
Well, the thing is that if it is something separate, then I think that the preferable way would be that the board vote on the separate application, so that it wouldn't have to be at another meeting. I think that okay. We can talk about it because we should talk about that and the poly ash. How about you, Andrea?
sorry, one more small comment on the north elevation. I'd love to see that existing lattice replaced with orthogonal, not the diagonal, but just the lattice going.
Oh, yeah,
Straight up and-
that is something I had in my notes. So I was looking
just-
at
Yeah.
page, I was looking at the design standards, but we would be doing horizontal and vertical lattice wherever we had to infill under the porch.
Yeah, okay, good. Unless do you have diagonal already there?
Yeah, there is some there now, but that would be replaced with the
okay.
horizontal and vertical. And
Beautiful.
it would satisfy the guidelines.
Great, sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Andrea, would you want to vote on it tonight?
yeah, I feel comfortable voting on it tonight.
How about you, Todd?
I feel comfortable as well. I think one thing, I might have missed this, but the question about the siding, if there's not enough aluminum siding to infill as needed, you don't have a backup chosen yet. Would that be a separate application or?
They'd have to come back, I think, right?
Yeah, I would have to come back for a modification to an approved application.
That's my only question. I think I'm ready. I would be ready to vote otherwise.
I think
Yep.
you should just find this place on the back to salvage from where it's not visible,
Yes.
my opinion.
Yes.
All right.
That's where we'll be trying to get most of it from.
So I guess what I'm going to do is I will describe the application the way I understand it right now, because ultimately, if it's approved, I'd have to do the markups on the drawing. So I need to make sure, or you have the option of coming back at our next meeting. Do you have any preference at this particular point, Justin?
I would prefer if you just marked up the drawings and
Yeah.
sent them to us, and we would make those
Okay.
modifications as to what you guys want.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing is,
One more thing, Al, sorry.
Yeah.
The railing on the rear, do we need to talk about detailing of that? It's wood, it says cedar, so I'm happy with the material, but do we want to talk, discuss at all the profile of it? Because potentially on the north side, some of it's might be visible at the balcony, the new balcony and down
Yeah.
below.
you're talking about the new balcony on the upper portion.
Yeah,
It would be very similar in painted wood, similar to the front porch.
Mhm.
what is the front porch now? Is it just pretty square, simple profiles, or is it more?
It's square,
ornate.
simple profiles, yes. Yeah. I think the top rail has a little bit of a bevel to it.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that then.
All right, so let me see if I can summarize what the modifications are. The first is the lattice under the front porch.
And on the north elevation. Or wherever it occurs, maybe just say that way.
Well, that's the only place that I can conceivably see it, because there's nothing on the other elevations, and certainly it's not on the back.
Yeah,
It's actually already called out on drawing A6, remove existing lattice and replace with square. Oh, but you're just saying that.
graphically, it's shown as diagonal.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay, and, all right, let me go back to the front. So on the front, we have the issue about how do you want us to describe the new or the replacement shutters? Do we want to call for them to be installed? As far as I understand, what we're doing is we're providing replacement shutters or new shutters to match the existing on the two windows under the porch and the new.
Yes. And the new window where there's currently a door.
Yeah.
Yep.
So leave that as is. The only thing we need to do is clarify that those are the new shutters are to match the existing.
Okay.
Okay. New. Okay, all right, and this is I guess a question for the board, really, as far as the poly ash. I think that we need to either step up our work on the design guidelines or just agree that we're going to allow composite and artificial materials in lieu of wood. My feeling is that from the photograph, obviously this building is set back far enough you wouldn't be able to see it, even though I do think that it would weather differently. Now, are all of the windows being replaced
Eventually,
eventually?
yes.
So right now, it's just the windows that are kind of highlighted with the two tones. as
Yes,
oppo- Okay, so those are all new windows
yes.
and the new trim. Now, the existing windows have what kind of a trim?
It's all trimmed out of aluminum.
Okay. All right, so,
I feel like the poly ash is I feel comfortable with that. It's a paintable material. It's not plastic. So I think that there are obviously variations of different types of composites, some of which are kind of more plastic based, and this is not that. So I definitely feel confident with the poly ash because it will be painted also.
I feel comfortable with it too, and also I understand at least that it's a little bit environmentally
Yeah,
a good
that
thing to use all the ash.
Yes.
I also was going to add one more small comment that I just noticed on the front elevation, the east elevation. Could you possibly move that leader on the right side of the three windows over to the other end of the gutter
Yes,
so that it's more symmetrical? It'll
absolutely.
help your symmetry, I think, on
Yep.
that elevation.
Yeah, we
And
can do that.
Sort of falls at the break between the
I agree.
probably the original and the new.
I
or
think
the
that's a very
original
good
and the newer.
suggestion. I think that would be great. Yep.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yep.
Maybe it can't go all the way to the right, but more almost
Right. We can dump it into the valley there in
into
the
the
porch.
valley. Exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
okay, so we have an application which have the following changes. The lattice at the front porch is going to be revised so that it is horizontal and vertical as opposed to diagonal. The note on the shutters that are to be installed are to match the existing. And the last but not least, we're going to move the gutter on the upper portion of where it's being raised to the right so that it looks balanced.
And we're also going to split the back four windows.
Yep.
Say that, Say
The
that-
back
oh, okay,
four
back
window-
4 windows, yeah.
And the one fine point, the lattice also happens on the north elevation.
And we were going to add a handrail at the front porch on the left.
Okay,
All
Mhm.
right. The front door and side light are entirely existing.
all right.
Yes,
But yeah,
Is that clear?
the lattice on the north elevation is under the front porch.
Oh, I guess so, sure. I get you now, okay.
And handrail. Okay, do I have a motion concerning this application?
Make a motion to accept the application as modified.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so with that, Andrea, your vote,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye,
Sean,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye also.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, yeah.
All right, so they'll process that over the weekend and we'll send you an email with the certificate of appropriateness and the marked up drawings.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good luck
Have a
with it.
good night.
All right,
You
you
too.
too.
Okay, bye.
All right, public hearing. Do we want to resume?
Close it.
So I spoke with Jeff and no further correspondence came in regarding the draft, but he did say that almost all of the affected property owners contacted him just to clarify what was going on. So we know we've done our due diligence in informing everybody, but no further correspondence came in. So I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye,
All right, so I hereby declare the public hearing closed. At this point, what we now have to do is submit a report to the village board with.
We also just have an issue to discuss of the one piece of correspondence that we did receive was from a neighbor on Marion Avenue requesting that we maintain the sliver of 27 Marion as incorporated in the district. So we should discuss whether that is what we will move forward with presenting to the board. I personally don't think that it is necessary to include that sliver of that parcel. I think that one of the motivations of this project was to ensure that the lot lines and the boundaries were contiguous. And I think that we did a very good job of doing that on all of the other properties. And the other kind of element that I am taking into consideration is the fact that, you know, the other houses on Marion Avenue and the Foodtown Plaza area, for the most part, are in the district, I think, to create a kind of buffer between the historic properties on either side of them and across 9D from the later development along Benedict and Marion. So I think to continue that sort of buffer to another buffer is a little bit redundant. So I can see the motivation of the neighbors to want to have some degree of assurance that that property will be developed in the context of the historic district. But I think that really it's their buildings which were developed the way they were to create a buffer from the district to Benedict. This is not a judgment of the aesthetics of any of those properties, but I'm saying that was sort of the purpose of keeping those elements in. So for those reasons, I would move to adopt the map with 27 Marion being excluded entirely from the district.
I have to agree with what Sean said, and the fact is that if we have a sliver of property and we have seen it, at least I've seen it often enough, people will just avoid it, and it really will not accomplish anything unless it's the entire lot, and that was not what they were proposing. And I'm not totally sure that that really does anything for the district. And ultimately, what is best for the district is what I think we should do. And I think, as Sean said, we're trying to clean this up so that it's logical and understandable. And so I think that we should exclude it. I agree.
I also think that if that sliver were to remain, it would exist entirely in the zoning setback for the side yard. So it really would never, I would be surprised if a proposal ever came to us with anything being constructed in that little sliver. So it could result in an unnecessary hurdle to our work and to the future of that site.
It would just kick the hornet's nest over something that's just not worth it. And I agree to keep our scope narrow and focused and, just clean up our map. That's all we wanted to do. And we don't want to erode any public trust. People had questions, they got their answers, and no one came to our public hearing. So I think that's good news. I think that, that means we can.
We had
Don't
one
say
person.
that. We had one guy. The guy-
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We had one person. Sorry. But what I'm saying is this wasn't contentious, and I
Right.
think another time in this village's recent history that could have been. And so I'm just glad to see that we did such a good job managing this. So I wouldn't want to, do anything, like I said, to
Right.
erode any trust. So.
Lloyd?
Yeah, I understand your arguments. I know I think I told some of you that I thought we should try to include it. I agree though that it really doesn't do much for the district. I'm just trying to grab what I can, I guess. That's just my mentality. So I'm fine with that. I'm not including it. That's okay. It's
All right, Todd?
gonna help me.
I'm good with not including it. I think your justifications are sound. Yep.
Yes. I agree.
Okay. So I think that the consensus of the board is to not include that sliver, despite the recommendation to do otherwise. So Sean, you're going to take the lead as far as preparing the report to the Board of Trustees. Now, you have done the yeoman's work up to this particular point, and so do you need any help from anybody in order to prepare the final report?
I don't. I'll just incorporate it into our board report for their monthly meeting. There was one typographical error which was pointed out to me by a member of the public, which is there is Furnace Street is not labeled on the map. So I will request that that the GIS officer provide an updated copy of the big map and the small map with that added if it is possible.
Okay.
But I don't think that warrants any changes to our public process. So I will present this to the trustees at their meeting next week.
All right,
And I-
just for the record, am I correct that the board recommends that what we decided and what we talked about, what was presented at the public hearing is in fact what we want to report to the village Board of Trustees?
I think so.
Lloyd? Yes? Just check,
Yeah.
okay. Andrea?
Aggressively.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so just for record purpose, I just want to make sure that we're all on record. Okay. So, please do, and if you do need help with any of that, please reach out, because like I said, you've done most of the work on this, and, it is duly appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Sean.
Yes.
I just want to double check, actually. I just want to see whether we have to vote to adopt this and then report that we have adopted it, or if we need to ask that they adopt it for us. Let me just pull up the.
If I remember correctly, what Marie Early had said is that we have to treat this as if it were a change to the map, which
Right.
means they have to adopt it, and we have to recommend to them that, we have, we had a public hearing. These are the comments. This is what we're recommending that you adopt.
Okay, great. So, yes, we've done all of that. We've done that. And within 62 days of closing the period, we shall issue the report to them. And I also have to send a copy to the planning board. Hopefully they will not take another 62 days to adopt it. Okay. We have minutes to review from the 10th. Let me pull those up. Give me 1 second. Okay, this was the meeting that we had at the beginning of November, I guess. I guess it was our only November meeting. Does anybody have any comments for the minutes? I found them to be very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And only had just a clarification for in the section about 6 Cherry Street. Does anybody have anything in that section? New business, 6 Cherry Street. This was the addition of the windows on the side of the house where they were adding that office.
No,
No,
I
I
mean,
don't.
So my only comment was in this section in green in the board comments. I just wanted to make it clearer that what Madeline Sanchez was proposing was that the new windows that they were putting in, similar to the previous application, the new windows that they were putting in are the design and pattern which they will eventually replace all of the windows with, which is why on the drawing, they seemed to be incongruent with most of the windows, because ultimately most of the windows are going to be replaced. So I just wanted to specify that at the beginning. So I will accept both of those. And it was in that discussion that Al requested whether they could do more of the windows on that facade at the same time so that there was greater consistency, and they agreed to do that. So in 9 Orchard, which was Anita and Mati, they had 2 applications. The first was for their solar. It looks like Andrea has some
just changes in language, just
changes.
tuning some things up, that's all.
And, oh, let me do those first. Does anyone have any other issues for the solar application?
No.
Okay. And then same property, but for the windows, Todd and Andrea both had some type changes about the windows, which I have no objection to. Oh, but we do have a formatting machine now.
Okay, do I have a motion concerning, oh.
Wait, there's
more,
some more,
wait,
sorry.
there's more, okay.
More.
Just again, this was the beginning of the public hearing for the map. Andrea has some type changes about how the lines, it's so complicated to see what you're actually trying to say until I accept everything. Corrected to include pre-existing map lines will be corrected to include the structures which were excluded from the district, but backyards were included. Is this what you were trying to say, Andrea?
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, you're in the, wait, no, that was you. Where are you? I'm sorry.
No, I'm here in this statement about 27 Marion Avenue.
I don't think did I correct something there?
Yeah, those were your corrections.
Oh, I see. Pre-existing map lines will be corrected to include the structures that were excluded from the district.
That were
Excluded from the
from the
district.
district
Yeah, I was just making
Right.
something, I thought I made it more clear, I hope.
while their backyards were included.
Yes, perfect.
And then in the board comments, I also just wanted to clarify that when John, when he requested that we keep the sliver, we said on the record that that what was up for consideration was either excluding the property altogether or only keeping that sliver. We were not entertaining including the entire property. So just so that that's clear.
Mhm.
And then this is just discussion of the meeting schedule. Okay. These were all little type changes. Okay, does anybody else have any other comments about the minutes from the 10th?
Nope.
Nope.
Have any?
I will make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. The ayes have it.
Great.
Okay,
Um,
why don't we talk about the schedule? Anybody have any problem with the schedule that Sean is proposing?
I just might have a
Nope.
problem with the 5th, but I don't know yet.
That's okay. So ultimately, we're just moving from the second and fourth
Fourth,
Wednesdays to the
first
first
and
and
the third.
third. And I sent around the sort of scheduled dates. There is the village board will be holding their their monthly meeting on the second Wednesdays. They will be holding their standing workshop on the fourth Wednesdays. And in the event that they need to have additional workshops, they would hold them the same time as our workshops, but we would accommodate both as best we could if any people were to be overlapping. I looked at the calendar also, and 2022 has a lot of 5 Wednesday months in it. So we will have some sort of extra days here and there if we did need to schedule additional sessions. So it shouldn't be a problem for making, conflicts and things like that. Lloyd, did you have a design guideline update? You said you had a link to share around.
Yeah, I sent that around an email. Let me share my screen though, because I have a version of it on screen that I'm going through.
Got an email.
I didn't get the email either.
No?
I saw an email, but it's pretty recent, I think,
It
right?
was today. Yeah, it was this morning.
Oh.
Oh,
I didn't send that?
I just heard you said that you would send it, but I didn't get the actual link.
Oh, You know what? I think it was what I saw was attached to the whole discussion about the agenda. So if you follow that email thread, at the
Sorry.
very bottom, I saw Lloyd. Yep, there it is. That's where I saw it.
There it is. Sorry, I should be better about that. I shouldn't just tack on. Anyway,
That's okay.
no, it's annoying. I'm sorry. It's confusing in the end. Anyway, I'm comparing the two files, as you can see here. To check for the photos to make sure the photos that I told her to put in there are the correct ones. So here's the photos I gave her. I don't know, maybe halfway through that. There are a few portions where we said we were going to do some text work. I think we should. I mean, I can cover the photo stuff, make sure it's correct. I think it looks good, except for one that I noticed doesn't look right. But I think we should cover the text issues again about who's doing what, and then that's probably good for tonight. And I can finish up with the photos, and then we can add the text hopefully in before the holiday and get that done too. How does that sound?
Can you just remind me of whatever I volunteered to do as far as text is concerned? Because
So I volunteered to do the table of contents first, so I still got that. Sean, you had a new paragraph here on the message to applicants referencing the location of the historic district map, because we took the 2 pages with the map out.
right.
Um,
And approximately how much space do I have for that?
1 line.
Okay. I'll be busy.
Not a lot. I guess we can reformat this if we need to. I mean, she could probably do photos down one side and then we could get more text this way, maybe. I don't know if that works or not. My logic might not work. Or these can be resized, made smaller, right?
I'm sure we can fit it
We
in.
can figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me flip through and see what else there is. This, I need to get an image for that we did. I'm sorry, bear with me while I just flip through it.
No problem.
There's some references like this. I'm not talking about those because I can fill those in. I feel like that was the only one, but let's just make sure. That was only about halfway through this before we started. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's all there is. Just that bit, the table of contents and the references and that one section, Sean.
Okay, so the image
where-
on the right,
Yeah.
the image on the right is her draft of everything that we requested.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, and is that on our server?
Yeah. It's in that link that I told you that I sent you that we just talked about. But what it's this version that I'm working on here, I'm transferring over notes that didn't get picked up,
Okay,
or making a new note because I gave her the wrong photo here, I think. So I have to find the right photo to match the historic one above. But yeah, I'm just pulling the comments over from left to right. And if they're done on the left, I'm just methodically going through and marking them complete in my protocol here, making them green like this so that I know they're complete. And then I'm pasting them over to the new version.
great.
Pasting the remainders to the new version.
What do we say about use of for example, siding, trim and stuff, the whole discussion about the poly ash. What do the guidelines currently say about that?
Let me find it.
Well, it would probably be in the A to Z
There
research
you are.
guide, which isn't,
Oh, right. We moved it, didn't we? Let me just do a search. Siding.
I remember we said something about requiring material samples for composites, which was a very good idea to have when we were meeting in person, but now it might become a little bit difficult to do.
So siding should not cover otherwise obscure masonry, trim, or architectural ornament. Okay, here we go. This is it.
It's actually might be in the trim section, which is just on that next page.
Okay, yeah, let's start here. Restoration and preservation of original siding material is encouraged to the greatest extent possible. New siding shall be the same dimension, thickness, and texture as originally installed. In the absence of such information, the siding shall be wood, clapboard, shingles, shakes, vertical board, and batten or other historically documented material appropriate to the style of the structure itself and others in the village. New siding should not be installed over siding material already in place. Recladding in vinyl or aluminum shall not be permitted unless those materials were original to the structure. Sidings made of composite materials may be allowed in new construction on a case-by-case basis and with a sample submitted to and approved by the HDRB. Siding shall not cover or otherwise obscure masonry, trim, or architectural ornament. And then there's the trim section you talked about. Trim refers to window and door casings, fascia, cornice, and eave trim, corner boards, water table, and all similar exterior non-siding elements. Trim shall follow historic pattern. Blah, blah, blah. In material here. This was moved from context section. Oh, that's interesting. There's a note that should be pink and that we need to take care of. Which version do we prefer? And then I guess
Well,
this
on
must
the
be
side,
other version. Replacement decorative trim should match original. See architectural ornament.
on the siding, I noticed that they talked about composite materials can be used in new construction, not necessarily on existing.
Oh, true.
I mean, we need to be clear, or at least we need to, if nothing else, be clear in our own minds as far as what we're going to allow, what we're not going to allow.
Well, I think
To
that
allow it, I think we need to be more specific about what we're allowing, though. We
Yeah,
don't want to allow everything.
And what are the things that we're looking for? In other words, if we're looking for something that would absorb paint. I know, for example, the issue about pressure treated for the longest time was not allowed because it just would not, it couldn't be painted. And so I think that that's certainly one of the features that we need to talk about. And I know that, for example, the cementitious materials that evidently can be painted. So from what I remember, here are the various different criteria. Obviously, what we're interested in is how things look. And so the question becomes, the first question is how close is it? I know, for example, the buildings right down there at what's the street right between the buildings and the waterfront?
West.
West. Okay. There we denied somebody who wanted to use a composite material, but allowed it to be used if it was on one of the upper levels because it was less visible from the street. Now, ultimately, that's one of the things that we were concerned about. We're looking to, so certainly when we're looking at composite materials, one of the issues that we're looking at is the distance from where the viewer would see the composite material. Then the second thing would be how paintable it is, and whether or not how well it mimics the properties of wood. Trying to think if there's anything else that I
Well, it's the
remember.
paintability and it's also the aging.
Right.
You know, if it's a sort of perma finish, which is something we talk about in the color section. We talk about things being whether the color can be changed versus whether it's a permanent finish.
Well,
Right.
that's kind of tied to paintability, right?
Right. Well, yeah, sure.
I think to me, paintability is kind of the number one element to be concerned with. I think obviously we're going to be looking at the look of the material when it's submitted. So if something, the faux grain is too prominent or whatever, you know, we've talked about in the past, just since I've been on the board, we're talking about the look no matter what. So I think the actual material, it would be wise to include language in the guidelines to promote the use of paintable composites as opposed to PVC, you know, and the fly, you know, I don't know whether we give examples, the poly ash or the other cement board, hardy board or whatever, or just kind of leave it at that and let people make
Yeah,
proposals.
I mean, we have to, you know, consider the fact that, well, first of all, we can't name brands in
Yeah.
the document, as you know. But then I think about, you know, we poured all this time and money into this document, and, you know, we want it to last as long as it possibly can. And so it's tricky for us because this is kind of new technology and we're trying to figure out, I guess, the language to use, right?
Well, just, you know, for full disclosure, because this issue about the composite material, it's been bouncing around in historic preservation for a long time, because I think the way it was described in one of the conferences that I went to was that wood nowadays, it just is not as durable as it used to be.
No.
It's the trees are growing faster, so therefore they're less durable. The cells are, you know, larger and they absorb water. So in reality, it's I think it's fair to consider something other than wood. But I think that, you know, we need to have a clear idea of what it is that we're willing to accept. And it sounds like something that looks like wood and can be painted, because ultimately wood is painted. And so, you know, as long as it can be painted and it weathers similar, then, you know, I think that that's something that we should consider.
Yeah, I don't think we should be too specific. I think it's important to sort of
Yeah.
purposely stay a little bit vague, because like you guys, like you've said, like the technology is changing all the time. So you get too specific and then all of a sudden it feels very dated in 5 years from now. So I think promoting, you know, as an alternative to wood, promoting these materials is good, and we just want to make sure that they're paintable. And then from there, you know, we are looking at cut sheets and we're looking at samples of whatever people are proposing. So I don't think we need to get necessarily more into the weeds with
Into the
that.
weeds, yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, bouncing off what you're saying, Todd, and Al, I know it sounds a little dumb, but sometimes when things sound kind of too simplistic, it can work to your advantage. And I think actually, Ali, you used some language at some point saying, looks and acts like wood. And I'm almost worried about using the term composite because we don't even know if composite will be a thing. Like they may find some, I don't know, new way of growing trees that are genetically modified. And I know I sound like a sci-fi crazy, but it's probably on the horizon, something like that, because composite's great, but what if you have something that's just like wood? So I think if we could use, just my opinion, if we almost dumb down the language to say looks and acts like wood, or is paintable and treatable the same way wood is. Everyone knows what wood is, but something as specific as composite, the more I think about it, it's almost too specific for the lifetime of this document.
We had
So-
talked about
I
using,
think we do need to be a little specific though, because
Yeah.
just a little bit in generic terms, because
Yeah,
somebody will come along and say, well, you can paint vinyl if you do
I
whatever.
can
to
sand it, make it
and
look like wood. Yeah, okay, I see your point. Yeah.
So what does wood do? It's sandable, shapeable,
Yeah, something like that, exactly, yeah.
it takes paint, it wears, unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you look at
Yeah.
it.
All right,
I mean, we can be
yeah.
very specific about excluding PVC. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, maybe that's all we need to do.
Yeah,
all right, Lloyd, thank you for volunteering to look at the standards
Sure.
and find the
thank
text
you.
and, see if you can make it, see if what changes are required in order to address that. One last thing I have concerning the design standards.
Yeah,
Why don't you, let me share
I'm
my,
having trouble sharing, sorry. I'm freezing up.
Just don't like sharing, Lloyd.
No,
okay, let me share my screen. Do. Okay, everybody see my screen.
yes,
yeah,
All right, now, I had, and I think, I'm just trying to think if, wait, let me go back to change the screen that I want to share.
okay.
Okay. So, all right, I'm stopping to share. Let me share my other screen.
Pretty
Okay.
sophisticated there.
All right. So I got an email from Kathleen, and she had gotten an email from Mike Bowman. And I don't know if anybody knows Mike Bowman. He used to be on the board,
Yeah,
and he taught, I guess, taught historic preservation. But he has, his students evidently had prepared this path to net zero energy for the historic district in Burlington, Vermont.
oh, nice.
Now, I guess I thought everybody had gotten this email, but let me take a look.
You did send that.
Yeah,
did
you sent that. I looked at it for a little while, yeah.
Okay. I think that my feeling is that if it makes sense for us, we should include it as an appendix or, as a guideline, only because sooner or later, we need to address the issue about, reducing our carbon footprint. And if we can do that by some of the suggestions. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I mean, as far as the people who have actually looked at it, what do they think? I mean, is it something that we should attached to our design guidelines?
I think like, we had, God, forgive me if I'm losing track. So I think we had appendices, right?
Right.
And we were just listing references.
Right.
I would like to give this another read because honestly, I just took like a cursory kind of like, quick eye over the document, but on its face, I thought it was really interesting and, complete.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'd need to look it over more closely. Al, are you
Yeah.
proposing we just kind of swap Cold Spring Inn for Village of Cold Spring Inn? Is he okay with us actually using this document or?
Well, I mean,
We're
what
linking
my,
to it, right? I think we're just like,
what my,
Oh, okay.
yeah, what my
You
thought
have
is
a-
that if
we
we,
have a helpful resources, our last,
helpful resources, yeah.
our last resource guide is helpful resources,
Yeah.
so it could be either a link or it could be appended. But I would think that copyright wise, we'd want to do that rather than
Yeah, plagiarize.
plagiarism.
so, all right. So, an action item for the next meeting. If everybody can kind of take a look at it and let's see if we like what we see and if it should be included as an appendix or within the appendix of useful information that we have as far as our design guidelines.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
have a,
one
also
thing,
have a sustainable building design and historic preservation section also, so it's
Okay.
another spot where it could go.
I think a lot of this is, it has been written to very specifically refer to state of Vermont resources.
Mhm.
So
Okay,
if we were going, whether we were to link to it or whether we were to speak to Michael about putting us in contact with somebody who could retrofit it, no pun intended, for our purposes, then we would just want to make sure that we weren't giving people information, financial information that was irrelevant for New York State. So we would really only want to be talking about the actual material information within it. So
I mean, Michael's obviously a New York resident. I mean, I wonder if he knows, obviously he's a good resource in this sense. I wonder if he knows, we could express our concern that, this is great, but it doesn't help New York residents. Do you know of something similar that we could link to for New York residents? I mean, or we could just find it on our own. I don't know.
Or we could block, we could append, or not append, but what's the word? Redact the Vermont sections.
the last
That's a lot of work.
is links to information.
Tax rebates and stuff.
Yeah, but again, it's a lot of it is state information. So
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm flipping through it right here. I have yet to see anything which is specific to Vermont.
no, I know. I'm saying
But-
that specifically at the end where it has additional resources and stuff. I think the real question is just to find out who actually wrote this and is there an option to have it kind of white labeled for
Yeah,
us? Would Al, since you are the only one with an existing relationship with Michael, would you be able to reach out to him and get a little bit more background on how this was developed?
Okay, I certainly can.
Great.
yeah, it's
All right.
probably going to depend on whether it was a volunteer effort or whether it was
Well,
looks
from
like
what,
contracted by.
Like both. It looks like it was sponsored
Like
by
it was both, yeah.
the company.
well,
Yeah, I have to just read it. I can't make a decision about any of that until I, really just do the homework.
Me too. I missed it. I'm sorry to say the email.
I saw it and I just,
Right.
glanced over it and got distracted by other things.
okay.
Right.
Let me find out from Michael and we'll discuss this at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. So,
We have we're scheduled to meet on the 22nd. We,
Really?
it was pending the request of a new application because we don't have anything to carry over. Do we want to plan on meeting regardless, and so that we can go through the design guidelines and give it an hour or two? Or in the event that we have no applicants, do we want to cancel that meeting? The only reason why I'm asking is because if Lloyd is not able to join on the 5th, we'd be losing time.
I'm sorry, December 22nd?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that works for me.
I can make it work. Yeah, I don't love it, but I can make it work.
well, alternative,
Well, just because I'm not, I mean, I'm at my in-laws and they don't have internet. Yeah,
well, alternatively,
but
would
I can figure it out.
we want to meet? I just don't want to get too far away from this
Yeah.
guideline.
Yeah.
So do we want to hold an additional session either, well, I can't do it next week,
Oh.
but
Oh, next week.
do we want to do something on, I mean, pretty much
Don't
our,
worry about it. We can do the 22nd. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
What about the 15th?
I can't meet on the 15th.
Oh, I'm sorry, you just said that. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong stupid red dot on my calendar.
22nd.
Um,
I mean, in the event that anybody requests to be on the agenda for the 22nd, we're gonna have to meet regardless. So I guess what I'm saying is I will not cancel the meeting if no applications come in. We will meet to discuss design guidelines on the 22nd.
Sounds good.
yeah, I mean, as long as it's not an incredibly time consuming meeting, 'cause,
Let's do an hour, right?
yeah,
Well,
I mean, that's
All
fine.
right.
There's just so much going on at that.
Yeah, let's do this. Because technically, we're only supposed to meet once a month, and we've gone to 2 a month only because at times things have are just too packed for one meeting.
Right.
We can just make a decision at this particular point that if we do meet on the 22nd, it's just to review the design guidelines.
Seems good.
And call it
Yeah.
and say that's it.
Honestly, I don't
That's
know
why
why, yeah, I just think that's asking a lot. I mean, people are traveling. I don't know, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, well, we did
I
actually
agree.
have somebody who asked whether or not they could meet on the 22nd. And I told
Well,
them,
What
They-
was that?
well,
I told them that they could if they get their application materials to us. So I'll know the Friday before.
Okay, well, you can send them an email saying that the issue was raised at the meeting, and the chair said that we're not going to be hearing any applications on the 22nd because we need to address the issue about the design guidelines.
Okay,
Right, and we can see them on the 5th.
Yeah, which is not far away
which
at
is
all
not
at that
far
point.
away,
And they're
nothing
not going to
really-
lose any construction
they
time.
really
between-
My
won't
God,
lose
no,
any
they're not.
construction time. No.
Unless,
Not
I don't
at
know, is there like contractor trying to show up on Christmas or something?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
I will let,
Okay, folks.
Okay, so with that, do
Not
I
to be
have,
flippant, But I hope that's the case, yeah.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll,
All
Oh,
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay,
Who seconded?
all right.
seconded,
Todd did, no?
Bruce did.
Who?
Lloyd made the motion and I seconded.
Okay,
That's-
okay.
That's our story. We're sticking to it.
Great.
All right. So we'll see
Final.
everybody on the 22nd to talk about
The
the,
design guidelines. So
Yes.
Karen, you will not have to join us on the 22nd then.
Okay,
Unless you
Good
want
girl.
to.
But if the minutes for this meeting are done by then, we will vote on them during our meeting on the 22nd. Otherwise, we'll do it in January.
Okay, very
Okay.
good.
All right,
All
good night,
right.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.